pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello BookTube, I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. Well, I'm having a dickens of a time getting my Friday Reads film today. This is my second attempt. And I made a amended Bookathon TBR video and I noticed the mic didn't work very well, so I thought maybe I just didn't plug it all the way in for the first 3/4 of that video. But no, this little $20 mic has given up the ghost. It's probably just like any cord, like this part, you know, that bends, it gives out eventually, so it is no longer reliable. Because I thought that at its best, when it was working well, it did just as good of a job as my $200 humongous microphone, but now I can't trust it, so it's trash. And I don't know if I want to go back to the good old days of lugging my huge non-portable microphone outside every time I do a video, so I'll have to think about that. I guess I could spend another $20 on these, but these are just like the iPad charger cords. They only last about 6 months and they're no good after that. Anyway, that was just one of the problems. I also got it all set up to film on my balcony, because that was kind of a nice spot to film. I had discovered recently in my new place. But it's a cloudy day. The good news is the heat wave has broken, so it's a nice day to be outside. But because of the clouds, I couldn't get an angle on the balcony where my face wasn't in the shade, and we can't have that. So I abandoned that attempt. Didn't actually film, but just started to get set up and realized that wasn't going to work. So then I trundled out to a nearby park that I have never successfully shot a video in, and wasn't successful either, but I didn't realize how unsuccessful I was until I got home and watched it. In Japan, the insect that characterizes our summer is in Japanese called the semi, which would translate to a cicada. And I don't know if the cicadas elsewhere in the world are anything like the monstrous cicadas we have in Japan, but they are the loudest insect in the world. And they were in full concerto today in this park. And I thought the microphone would mute them, but no, I'll play you 30 seconds. So here's a sample of what I decided not to show you because of the cicada noise in the background. It wasn't just the cicadas, it was the traffic, the children playing, and the construction across the street, but it was the cicada noise that after about 5 minutes, it just starts giving you tinnitus. So this is what I did not subject you to, but here's, you know, a few moments of that. Hello, I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. It is a little noisy, but it seems to be all pretty muted in the background. Of course, I didn't bring my headphones, so I couldn't do a really deep sound check, but I'm just going to trust in the universe despite everything that's going wrong today. Nothing serious is going wrong. So yeah, that was a bit much. So I'll have to wait before I make another video outside. The heat has broken temporarily, but we have to wait for those cicadas to all die off, because that was obnoxious. So here I am in my bedroom, with back using my old microphone. So anything else? Could anything else go wrong? Let's see. So I had a lot to say, and I'll maybe try to do it a more eloquently, more briefly, the second time around. So I had a great reading week. I finished a whole swack of books. I finished Michelle de Crester's The Life to Come. This was a buddy read with Britta Bowler. Ultimately, she talked me into not liking the book very much. That's tongue-in-cheek. I think I arrived there on my own, but she didn't like it from the very beginning. She's done a review, if I remember. I'll put a link in the show notes to her wrap-up video. And by the end, I didn't care for it so much either. We both thought the writing was really great. There was not one sentence in here that I thought was badly written, so the prose was stunning. But for me, this was a shapeless novel, and what she seemed to be trying to do she didn't really pull it off for this particular reader. I'm excited about what she's trying to do, or what she seems to be doing, because I think she's got a masterpiece in her. I'm not sure I would try her next novel, but I certainly would try the one after that, because she's a really exciting voice. She just hasn't, to me, she hasn't really found the structure or the shape with which to tell the stories, and she has to maybe, I would say there was 5 novels worth of story in here, and it was really cluttered. I don't know what this was. Was it a collection of interlinked short stories? None of the stories would stand alone as a short story, as far as I was concerned. And the interconnection was through one character who was kind of a shadow character in most of the... Pippa. She was like a shadow character in most of the stories and just observed and opinionated about. And then she got one chapter where she was the point of view character. I wasn't sure if that all made sense or was aesthetically pleasing for me. A lot of multicultural stuff is explored here, and Michelle de Kretser is biracial Australian. One parent was Sri Lankan, or is that right? I actually don't know about her ethnic background, but she was born in Sri Lanka. And a lot of Sri Lankan Australian characters, and a lot of characters who go into exile or who are expatriate Australians living elsewhere, or people from other countries living in Australia. And all of that I loved. I did feel that there was a snarkiness to the satire where it was kind of unrelenting, and it did wear me down a bit. I'm not a big satire fan, and I just did catch myself wondering things that I usually never wonder when I'm reading fiction, like, can any gesture of goodwill from a white person be taken at face value and not savagely satirized? That's not a sentiment that, comes into my consciousness very often, but are all white Australians laughable? That was a little bit too much, but I'm not Australian. I'd be interested to hear what Australians thought. Still, I love the multicultural the way that multicultural themes and identities swirled through the novel, and I'm really excited to see what she does in the future, because she's a fantastic writer. But this, for me, was not a fantastic book. Enthusiastic 3 stars. You don't hear me say that very much either, because for me, 3 stars is bitter disappointment. Speaking of bitter disappointments, Muriel Spark's second novel, Robinson. I hated it by the end. I didn't hate it until about the last third. I loved listening to Adam tell us all what it meant to him, but one of the things that he's really taught me about Muriel Spark, which I had never really got before, is that a big part of her literary project is to take the cliches of genre fiction and the narrative genre fiction stories and play with them in a literary way. And I think that's where I get stuck with some of her fiction. I got stuck halfway through her first novel, The Comforters, but I kind of got out of it. I could really appreciate it by the end. Here it just got worse and worse. This was kind of a mystery story and kind of a slipstreamy. Was she just dreaming the whole thing? Trapped on an island, murder mystery. It just it got really weird and stopped making sense. And the other thing that I'm deeply disinterested in is religion. Well, Muriel Spark writes a lot about religion. And there was a lot of boring crap about being a religious person in here. And so I just didn't like it at all. Why am I so interested in Muriel Spark? Well, I'm going to try 2 more, and then I'll see how interested I am. Maybe I just loved the driver's seat. It's like, I don't really have favorite writers. I have favorite books. So, Comforters I enjoyed by the end. This one, terrible. In much happier news, I think I started and finished this week this novel from 1971, The Sea Change of Angela Lewis by Cynthia Proper Seton. This was a buddy read with Ange of Beyond the Pages, and we both loved it. I loved it in a 5-star way. This was the kind of 5 stars. This was the kind of a 5-star read where I saw the obvious flaws and I didn't care because I loved the novel that much. I'm going to do a full review on this weekend, so stay tuned for that. But yes, you will be hearing much more from me on Cynthia Proper Seton, and there was a lot about this novel that just filled me with joy. Stay tuned. Another 5-star read, and this was a buddy read with Britta, Bowler Pond by Claire Louise Bennett, an an Irish novel. Somebody's going to have to tell me. I don't think anybody knows what this is. I noticed this American edition was gorgeous hardcover. There's nothing about genre anywhere on the description, plot, synopsis, or anything. There is one blurb from Emer McBride which refers to them as stories. But I am aware, I haven't double-checked, but I'm pretty sure the Fitzcarraldo edition, those stupid, ugly, blue designed books, calls it a collection of short stories. To me, it wasn't a collection of short stories. There was a lot of thematic resonance and one character throughout. I think it was the same character throughout. Certainly there was a rather eccentric and hilarious and very eloquent young woman who lived in a dilapidated cottage on the seaside of Ireland. There was a few shorter pieces where it wasn't really clear to me who was speaking or whether these were little poetic snippets from earlier in her life, so I don't know. And those smaller snippets didn't work for me as much as the longer chapters, but for me there was a consistent narrative voice, there was a protagonist, there wasn't much of a plot, and because I fell in love with the narrative voice so much, and there were a couple of the longer pieces in this around the halfway point of the book that didn't, to me, cohere as much as the others, but for the most part I fell in love with the narrative voice, and I felt that there was some very ineffable themes being explored, like what you keep and what you throw away. That was one. I can't remember what the other ones were already, and that would be the one critique, that it's so ineffable and it's so absent of plot that I probably won't remember a damn thing about this book in a month. But the writing was exciting and throbbingly alive on the page, and funny and moving and just mesmerizing. I loved it. I guess it's not a bad thing if I forget it in a month, because maybe I'll just read it again. And I have started 2 books this week. This morning I started The Natural Way of Things by Charlotte Wood. This is a buddy read with Heidi of My Reading Life. I featured this in a Try a Chapter tag the other day, and she connected with what I said, and we arranged this weekend-long buddy read. And this is I don't think it's a maybe dystopian novel. I'm not far enough into it to know why this group of maybe a dozen young women are being kept prisoner on this isolated farm in Australia, whether they're being kept for sexual slavery purposes or some kind of religious cult reason. I'm not far enough in to know, and I probably wouldn't tell you if I did know, because I don't think that is explained on the flap. I didn't read the flap. I tried to avoid reading what it says on the back cover or whatever, but the writing is crisp and gorgeous, and it's a very disturbing story. So I'll have more to say about that when I finish it. And I will finish it hopefully on Sunday. I have also started this biography of E.F. Benson. I was planning to fold this into the Bookathon TBR, but I decided to pull it out and get a good start on it this weekend, and then put it aside during the Bookathon and the Booktubeathon and get back to it after that. The Life of E.F. Benson by Brian Masters. Somebody told me that he's written some crime biographies or true crime books, and they were surprised that he'd written this. Well, the writing is really good. I'm always complaining about how shitty the writing is in biographies. And I've only read 13 pages of this, but I've been very impressed with the prose. And the Benson family, I'm finding out, I was vaguely aware, but I'm now finding out in detail how prolific and esteemed and important they were. E.F. Benson's father was one of the archbishops of Canterbury during, what was the phrase Masters used? During Queen Victoria's implacable widowhood. So there's an example of some of the nice turns of phrase in here. So I think I'm going to enjoy this. In terms of my upcoming TBR, I'm not telling you a damn thing. It's all going to be booktubeathon stuff, and I have now 2 TBR videos. One that I put up last weekend, and today I did an amended one, so check those out. And then just to finish, I was going to make this shorter. It's now going on longer than the one that I am not going to show you. I'm going to try to do a vlog daily starting Monday until it ends on Sunday. So my Friday reads will be folded into that. I will be doing a video on Friday. I will call it a Friday reads, but the style of the videos next week every day will be vlog, where I'll talk about what I'm reading, what I've finished, how it's going, blah blah blah. And on Friday I won't give a summary of the week's reading. That will all just flow day by day. If I end up feeling that the daily vlog is too much to handle on top of the daily reading and living my life, living my best life, I may have post videos shorter, post longer videos less often, but Friday reads will be folded into that, so you won't get a week-long summary. You'll have to tune in every day if you really care about what I'm reading next week, all right? That's all. What are you up to, reading-wise or otherwise? I'm so happy the heat has broken. I'm going to start editing this, read some more, go off and teach for an hour, come home, crack open a bottle of wine, and keep on reading. And depending on how well the wine sits with me, I might do a spontaneous tag video. We'll see. Probably not. Thanks for watching.